obviously, for those of you that don't know, today is May the 22nd, which means it's officially been 4 years since the tragic events that happened in Manchester at the Ariana Grande concert. 4 years ago, a suicide bomber blew up in just outside the arena, close to Victoria Station. 22 people were killed, over 200 were injured. I think it was something like proper shook the whole city as a whole. It was a mad time, and just to think that's been 4 years ago, it's crazy. Simran, so 4 years ago you weren't even at uni. So what was it like for you? Obviously being outside of Manchester when that happened.
I feel like I was in my final year of A levels and I hadn't even come up more north than Birmingham at that point. So it felt very disconnected from it, when especially at that time there was a lot of events of those nature happening in London. You felt a lot more connected to those, especially I had a near miss to one of them.
Really?
I was out with my friend and one of them happened, but that's beside the point. When stuff like that happens close by, not even an hour away, I felt very connected and scared to be in London at the time. But hearing the one in Manchester, which was one of the worst ones in terms of the people affected and things like that, the impact of it didn't actually hit until you really, really looked into it, or you saw the interviews on the news and you saw just the detriment that it caused. Being far and not having experienced being up north and experiencing the kind of unity that I feel like people up here have a lot more than they do down south, it wasn't until I got into first year uni and spoke about it with someone who was from Manchester that I realised the gravity of the situation and how badly it just shook through communities within Manchester.
I think it was just it is pure evil that went behind it, just because the whole idea was that this person was going to a concert full of young girls. Yeah. They knew Ariana Grande, they knew the fan base, their target audience. It's just preconceived evil. There's no other way of putting it, really. And I think that's what shook it. And like you say, as the country is London centric, sadly that also means that a lot of stuff like this that happens does happen in London. So for that to happen in Manchester, I think it was
unexpected, and in a way almost random.
I think it was the first thing like that to happen since 1996, and it's the IRA bombing, which thankfully no one was injured with that, but it did. That's basically why the Arndale got redone, because that all got knocked down. But yeah, like I say, obviously it's so sad. Over 20 people lost their lives. Quite a few of them young. I think the youngest person was 8. So really sad. Yeah, and of course it's really important to condemn what happened, and also to obviously reflect and to honour those that lost their lives. And even though obviously it was a very sad event, I think in the aftermath of it, there's certainly, like you say, the sense of unity, just sort of come together, I don't think you really see that in London, if I'm being honest.
No, it was in London, the attitudes around that was obviously that it was devastatingly tragic. Everything was condemned massively there, but it didn't bring the sense of unity that the Manchester one did, in that people would just kind of get on with it. And I feel like we were going out in London at the time as well, they being if something happens, it happens. There's nothing to be scared of. You can't live your life in fear. You have to just crack on. And London was as busy as anything when all these things were happening, whereas I feel here, and you didn't feel a sense of fear all the time, whereas here I feel like people really came together to acknowledge and honour what had happened.
Yeah, definitely. And also just want to give massive shout out to Ariana Grande as well.
Massive shout out to Ariana Grande.
If you're listening, big fan.
Massive fan. Love you.
But yeah, I'm a big fan before this, but even especially after this, But
it did make me want to know more about her. I feel like I just listened to her music before, or just was a normal Ariana Grande music listener. But after that, I really looked into her and what she was into and stuff, and the way she handled it was amazing. And I feel really sorry for her, in a sense that people blamed her for it when she was just the face. It could have been absolutely anyone.
Yeah. Also the tabloids as well that came for when she think she left the country like a few days afterwards, and they're like, well, what do you expect her to do? Like, she's actually been through so like, can you imagine like obviously it's not she shouldn't feel guilty, but the guilt that she will be feeling,
naturally,
like,
you would feel that way, and you would question yourself and what you could have done differently and stuff. I can't imagine what she was feeling. I think she once spoke about the fact that she genuinely had developed like a PTSD from it and stuff, and it genuinely like messed her up, understandably. And it doesn't help that tabloids were jumping on that and literally confirming probably all the negative thoughts that she was having about herself on front page newspapers. It was honestly awful.
It's not good, like, and as well, like, the people that lost their lives, obviously the reason they went to these concerts because they were fans. Like, they wouldn't want you to be digging into Ariana Grande over this. Like,
no, like I said, she was just the face of it. It genuinely could have been any artist. It was just a senseless attack.
So definitely shout out to Ariana Grande. If you want to come to Pi Radio anytime,
come through.
You're always welcome. But
she even did the Relief concert one year on, didn't she?
It wasn't even 1 year. It was this is the thing, like, people are criticizing her for leaving. It was 1 month on. Like, literally, like...
Oh, God, yeah, actually, no, sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
The one that got pulled together really fast, and she had loads of people there.
Yeah, so, like, how are you ever going to criticize the fact that she was literally able to... Because she performed at that as well, nah, like, you gotta give her...
She's an incredible woman.
Yeah, definitely.
God is a woman, and it's Ariana Grande.
Yeah. Early Ariana. But, yeah, on the flip side of that, I did kind of want to touch on, again, the aftermath of the attack. And again, like I said, obviously, this event that happened, you got to condemn it. It was awful. No justification. It's, like I said, pure evil. No,
disgusting.
Disgusting, horrible. However, certain people's response following the attack, I think, need to be called out, or necessarily need to be known of. So when I'm talking about this, what I'm talking about is the rise in Islamophobic hate crime following the arena attack. So I'm sure people listening do know, but obviously the arena attack was committed by an Islamic extremist, and obviously with that following comes people associating the whole event with Islam, blaming Muslim people. And I actually looked into the stats of it, and this is specifically in Greater Manchester, so where the attack happened. In the month following the arena attack, Islamophobic hate crimes increased by 505%, like, just in that month. So there were 224 reports of anti-Muslim hate crime in that month, compared with 37 in the same period in 2016. The figures released by GMP also showed that generic hate crimes, not just Islamophobia, leapt from 92 to 366 following the attack. Race hate crimes jumped 61% to 778 incidents, compared with the same 4 weeks last year, so basically 1 year on. Obviously, as well, outside of Manchester, we had the Finsbury Mosque attack, where I think that guy drove into a crowd outside it. And the thing is, as well, I was thinking, okay, this is great, this is 4 years ago, we need to actually think about now. So I looked into 2020, and in the year ending March 2020, over like half of religious hate crime offences were targeted against Muslims. So in that year, which was 3,089. So clearly, like I said, obviously condemning what happened, it's not justified. We need to think about how we can stop this from ever happening again. However, no excuse for these hate crimes following it. Like that is just horrific that 50% of hate crimes in 2020 were targeted towards one specific religion. Obviously, terrific that hate crimes are put towards anyone, but for it to be directed all towards one religion, I think it says a lot about people's stereotypes and perceptions and what's called not subtle, but the hate that they have within them. Like, it's awful.
Yeah, I think the stigma surrounding, like, what people think are terrorists geared towards their opinions of Islamophobia, and that really reflects, it just shows, like with the stats that you've just given, Carlos, how little progress has been made post 9/11 from all that. It sounds so obvious to sit here and say, like, oh, just because a member of a certain community carried out a hate crime or a terrorist attack, or a crime of that nature, just because that person who perpetrated that crime belongs to a certain faith or culture, it sounds really ridiculous to sit here and say, oh, that's not representative of the whole community, because that's obvious. Of course it's not.
And it is definitely, you can't just say, oh yeah, it happens to anyone, because it doesn't. Like before this we were talking, I was saying about, obviously mass shootings in America are a huge problem, and who are the main perpetrators of these? White men. Do we ever see any form of a hate crime towards white men, like of any significance?
But they're not even labelled as terrorists.
Yeah, exactly.
The FedEx one in Minneapolis, that was not labelled as a terrorist attack. The one prior to that, I can't remember. But in general, they're just they're not labelled as terrorists. It's all mental health. He was troubled. He was a really good kid in school, just quiet, or something like that. And just the second it's a brown face behind it, that's terrorist motivated, it's racially motivated, it's because of Islamic extremism, or this, that, and the other, which obviously might be true for that one person in what they believe, but that's not representative of A, the entire faith, or B, the people that also belong to that faith, who innocently don't deserve to be the target of hate crime. Following stuff like this. And I feel like, because of what we spoke about with it being in Manchester, which was quite novel, considering the last one you said was 1996.
Yeah, like that was the IRA. I'm pretty sure there hasn't been any sort of incident like this in that time.
So a good amount of time has passed from that incident to this one, and obviously the rest were quite London based. Having this one in Manchester, which was rather novel, kind of this localized crime, it sounds bad, but like unsurprisingly brought about a localized spike in hate crimes. So it kind of explains why the Greater Manchester area you had this spike in hate crimes, which obviously just reflects massively on the attitudes that people still have nearly 20 years on.
Yeah, it kind of, it's obvious, it kind of brings out the, again, I don't like using, but covert racism that people have embedded within them. This is the type of thing where people are like, oh, I'm not racist, I don't dislike black people, or blah, blah, blah. But it's these obvious stereotypes and beliefs that you still hold within you that mean the moment that something like this happens, you jump on it and start accusing all these people that you perceive as not British. That's basically, you don't perceive them as British, you don't perceive them as having the same values that you think British people should have, and you just jump on this bandwagon of, oh, it's their fault, they moved here, they're taking our jobs, they're blowing things up, like, it's horrible. Like, I remember even like a few years after the event, I was driving down in Didsbury, and the arena attacker had been known to go to Didsbury Mosque, and I was driving past it, and there was a bit of traffic, and I was just like, what is this? And it was like 2 years later, still they had these EDL marches going on outside the mosque, and it's just like, leave the people alone. Like, like,
they have done nothing. These people you have to live beside, I'm sure Didsbury's not a massive area or anything. Like, these people are like your neighbours. Like, where is the sense in like conducting a march and having to go around and like literally be, like you said, covertly racist?
Yeah, and it's like in this EDL thing, I'm pretty sure a lot of these people aren't even from Manchester. They specifically travel to Manchester with the sole purpose of going on these and it's actually so sad as well. They're all dressed up in like these like with the England flag and wearing like knight armor and stuff, and it's like, what
are you doing? Think about it. Have shame.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to talk about as well is just what to do if you do witness a hate crime. And I have been to like a few of these like sessions before, but when obviously everything happened with Sarah Everard, put together like, or looked into how men can help women if they are seeing them with sexual harassment, and I think the same thing that they can do, I think, can be applied here. So it's called the principle of the I think it's like 4Ds or something like that. So it's distract, so take an indirect approach to intervene in the situation and remove the victim from it. So like without confronting the person, just kind of enter in, take the person who's being victimized and kind of remove them from it, obviously with their consent. Two, direct, so this is if you do feel like you need to, obviously confronting the situation, but being firm, clear and concise. Like there's no point you jumping in and just starting yelling at them, because that's giving them the rise that they probably want. Three, delegate, so seek help from a third party. Obviously, this might be what's it called? Someone who's like there at the same time. I mean, if you want to, you can go to the police, but I would personally wouldn't be all for that. Depending on who it is as well, like you'd never know how they're going to react to the situation. And four, document. So if it's safe to do so, document the incident, so like taking a photo or a video. Though obviously I wouldn't do that over intervening, because it's kind of like if you're just sitting there videoing it and someone's getting...
What does that help?
Yeah, I mean, it will help in terms of documenting it afterwards. I'd say maybe if people are already intervening, then document it. But don't make that your priority, because otherwise you're literally just going to be sat there like...
I think that's what we do have a big culture of. We just have these videos of things happening, and it's like, oh, so who's actually helping the person?
But then saying that, if that girl hadn't videoed George Floyd, which obviously was like nearly a year ago now, then we wouldn't be where we are.
Thing is, I don't blame her for not stepping in, because there was like 4 cops.
Yeah, this is the thing.
That's different, I feel like. I don't blame her for standing there and filming it.
Yeah. I don't think you can really blame anyone in these type of situations.
Because you don't know how you're going to react. It's a very high adrenaline situation, and you want to put your safety first as well. You don't want to let yourself get injured.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. That's why you shouldn't go in all guns blazing, because literally all that's going to do is kind of end up in you maybe getting in a fight with them, which obviously doesn't really help anyone. So, yeah, that kind of concludes this segment. So, all in all, obviously, thoughts go out to the family and friends of those who lost people in the attack 4 years ago or were affected in any way by it. Thoughts with the whole of Manchester. I'm sure it's like it's a weird time for everyone, really. At the same time, obviously you can condemn what happened, and you can be sad and reflect and mourn and remember these people without directing hate towards innocent people.
I just want to say as well, last thing is to call out your friends when you see behaviours that you might deem as like slightly problematic. It's better to kind of combat them at the root of the source, and then it kind of challenges these attitudes that people have, and they'll realise that, oh, this is not okay. I can't say these words, or I can't have this kind of attitude, and they won't go out of your bigger circle and say it, because as long as you target it within you guys, you know, it might just be a case of complete ignorance, like in an almost innocent way. Obviously, that's not justifying what someone might think, but someone might just not know better in some cases. Yeah,
and once you've told them, if they go and take that on and change,
then you've done something good.
Yeah,
and that's positive change.
If they don't change, then it's a case of, well,
then that's willfully being ignorant. But, you know, some people are just genuine, they just don't know any better. So I think call out your friends. Don't be afraid to call out your family in a polite way.
Don't get yourself kicked out or anything. Like, I think it's all in all these situations. It's a case of assessing the situation, seeing how much worth is it. Like, do I think I can actually make change? Like, or do I think I can actually, even if you're not making change, like kind of turning the cogs in people's brains and being like, well, maybe, like,
just kind of promoting the idea of thinking a little bit more critically about what comes out of your mouth sometimes, and just kind of letting people in on that idea and kind of educating from there. And that's how you kind of incite change, you know?